proofs of God cannot be used to validate the assumptions of naturalists. The propositions or claims used by atheists to deny the validity of Scripture cannot be used as a framework to prove the God hypothesis. Atheists say a physical reality has no room or need for God. This is their claim to prove. Their claim does not impose a barrier to proofs of God not grounded on their assumptions. A priori does not in its test groups accept any obligation to demonstrate that reality is physical or that the secular model is in any way verifiable. The a priori experiment in apologetic is predicated on only two things. 1. Employing the God hypothesis produces quantifiable differentiation from the control group in the test group, and 2. The differentiation of test group from the control group can only be attributed to the employment of the God hypothesis by the test group and to no other factor or feature. 1. The experiment to validate the existence of God requires the test group recognize God's authority over the natural world. God is the owner of the world's resources, not us. The experiment predicts ownership protocols will change because of this experiment. 2. God owns the natural world and all of its assets. The test group is modeled on the first-century church. The experiment predicts Christians will shift the church organizationally closer to the description of the church found in Scripture. 3. The Bible tells us we are to care for one another. We are to do unto others as we would have them do unto us. We are to love our neighbor as ourselves. A priori predicts a new and better understanding of love will emerge as the protocols of the experiment are implemented. Love will be measured by what we do and divorced from how we feel. 4. Liberalism is centralizing in how it operates, whereas the biblical model is decentralizing. A priori predicts the test group will become progressively more decentralized as the control group proceeds towards a more globalist and totalitarian framework. 5. The control group's economics are based on intersectional merit. One subclass in the control group are exploited to benefit another group with higher intersectional merit. Exploitation produces social costs or is manifested as social costs. The experiment predicts the fewer social costs created, the more efficient will be the system. The control group's social costs will increase, whereas the social costs of the test group will be reduced. 6. The control group has no objective standards when it comes to environmentalism issues. The Bible tells us we are stewards. We predict pollution as a social cost will decline faster and more completely using the Bible-based model of social organization than the socialist models will or have. 7. The control group feels no moral duty to create jobs or reduce costs beyond what is needed to maintain the social order and produce profits. A priori apologists claim unemployment and other social costs can be eliminated. A priori predicts that the test group will eliminate all social costs, including unemployment, debt, inflation, taxation, cyclic economic swings, while these things will worsen in the control group, represented by capitalism and the left. 8. The control group will utilize GNP as an index to measure economic progress. This is not a good or accurate measure of how well an economy produces value. The test group will use the per capita value of the test group, that is the individual equity of the test group, as a measure of the experiment's success. Whereas capitalism predicts unleashing individual greed produces the best economic results, a priori predicts that linking the success of the individual to the success of the group will produce better results. 9. Control group economics, capitalism and communism claim factors other than labor go into products and services and need to be considered to establish prices. A priori argues for the implementation of the labor theory of value, LTV. The experiment predicts not only that a valid pricing model can be based solely on the LTV pricing model, but that the economy using this model will exceed the productivity of capitalism or communism. 10. Authoritarianism is not a natural form of social organization. Authority-based administrations require extreme power disparities and steep administrative gradients. The experiment predicts a flattening of power hierarchies is possible in the test group and will produce better economic results. 11. Capitalist nations are constantly at war. If the war is not overt, there are struggles over assets. When intersectional merit is employed, there are always disagreements about how the economic pie is to be divided. Intersectional merit divides us into tranches so as power can be maintained over the base. Elites rule by provoking division using the tools of intersectional politics. One group is demonized while others play the victim card. The experiment predicts fewer wars and less social division in the test group than the control group as intersectional divisions are discarded. 12. One consequence of intersectionality is freeloading, and free riding means higher rates of crime. We predict a sharp reduction in the incidence of crime in the test group, especially financial crime. 13. The monetary system of Babylon is based on debt. Bank accounts are created by debt. The currency created by lending is negative money or debt. The control group is going deeper and deeper into debt. There is no need for debt. The Bible tells us to be neither a borrower or a lender. The experiment demonstrates an economy can be created without debt. The experiment predicts the test group will systematically reduce and finally eliminate debt. 14. Authoritarianism creates social costs, and social costs can only exist where there are power disparities. Power disparities generate income differentials. We predict equality of income will increase and power disparities will decrease in the test group and vice versa for the control group, and that this difference will be exacerbated as the test group increases in size. 15. Authoritarian models of organizations are based on and produce deep gradients of power. From absolute dictators and kings ruling a landless peasantry, the control group always has large differences between the power of the top and the power of the bottom. Democracy has not erased the gradient. A priorian apologists predict test groups will have flatter organizational profiles than any comparable part of the control group. 16. Authoritarians use power to avoid paying the costs their power disparities create. Many people who do the work and pay the costs do not have the power to protect their earnings. The experiment links power with responsibility and ensures accountability for costs a person generates, at least in the test group. The test group is predicted to demonstrate greater accountability and stronger connections between the level of power a person has and the responsibility they exhibit than is in the control group. 17. Even in republics and representative democracies, power is centralized and administrative hierarchies created. The control group shifts much of this power into international organizations such as the EU and the UN. Much of this power is taken from lower levels by free trade agreements and other international agreements. A priorian predicts the test groups will experience the devolution of power from the center onto the test group at the local level. Municipalities and other local administrative bodies will gain more power and more control over local resources at the expense of higher-level jurisdiction. This predicts a decline in the power and influence of international organizations. The test group is predicted to conform to the doctrine of subsidiarity in its operational activities. 18. With the rise in globalization, national security has become a side issue. The priority is to open borders and promote social and cultural diversity. Authoritarian personalities naturally think in terms of a one-world government. Authoritarians tend to reject the need for or importance of borders and culture. A priorian predicts the test group will reduce globalization pressures and embrace a more robust national security policy, as well as place more emphasis on the importance of local culture by improving border security. 19. Economics is not a predictive science. The experiment predicts the test group will be able to make predictions about its economy. the test group will be able to create jobs in predictable ways. The test group will also be able to eliminate debt systematically. A priori predicts economics will become one of the hard sciences within the context of the experiment. 20. Conventional thinking and the wisdom of God are not equal sources of truth. Being saved does not guarantee the Christian is getting closer and closer to Christ, nor does being unsaved guarantee one is on the fast track to hell. A priori apologetic predicts that even where a person is not saved, if he or she joins the program and rejects the social model of the control group, he or she will do better than they would do as part of the control group. 21. In the control group, a person's value is determined by people with money and the free market. If a capitalist cannot make money off an employee, the employee is fired. Housewives and students are not paid for what they do, though they generate social value, but not for the elites. Test groups pay for all value created. Everyone who creates social value will be paid for the value created, when part of the test group. We predict that the test group paying for all value created will add more economic value and create more economic activity than will the control group. 22. We predict that the test group will work as predicted and that economic development will continue unhindered and unhampered by the economic cycles of the control group. 23. It is predicted that atheists will not be able to explain the success of the experiment by other factors than the reliability of the Bible. The conclusion will be that Scripture has the only solutions to mankind's social problems. 24. We predict that the experiment will humiliate atheists and leave them with an unresolvable dilemma. Either the Bible is true, explainable only by crediting its authorship to God, or the laws of probability no longer work. 25. A priori predicts the experiment will generate a higher rate of conversion in the control group and the rate will increase as the results become more widely broadcast. The prediction means that the church will be as the Bible predicts, a light to the world.